The fight at Rutherford isn't over for sacked textile workers. Maritime Union members buoyed spirits at Rutherford, telling stories of their own big blue with the federal government. While the National Secretary of the Textile Workers Union says it's wrong for the Prime Minister to say the deal offered yesterday is the result of special circumstances. Workers on the picket line are waiting for the results of a meeting late this afternoon between creditor committees and National Textiles in the office of the Administrator, John Starr. It will affect exactly how much and over how long the sacked workers get paid. A message from the meeting, which is still in progress, said all the creditors have agreed on a proposal except for Scottish Pacific Business Bank. It is owed $6.6 million by National Textiles and will have a further conference tomorrow morning. David McElwain, NBN News.
For the young star of the show 2 Weeks with the Queen, it was a night to remember. 12-year-old Chris Williams striding onto the stage to collect his Best Actor award for a drama or comedy. Meanwhile, Colin Taylor took out the Best Professional Actor award. The Best Professional Director was Felicity Biggins, collecting her award for the production These Foolish Things. Meanwhile today, a show larger than life hit the boards at the Civic Theatre. The highly acclaimed production of The Hobbit has arrived for its week-long season, which has already sold out. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
From the heart of Kurri, smoke seemed to envelop the Hunter Valley town. Houses and livelihoods were at risk as the fire raged towards backyard fences. Firefighters had to run from the face of the blaze to stop spot fires starting behind them.
We've just had a flare up, just with the strong winds and the hot conditions. She's come towards the road. We're just down here for fire protection of the houses across the road. It's already jumped the road once, we got that out, but she's going fairly well.
As trees seemed to explode, there was no doubting the urgency or effort required. While houses were protected, firefighters worked to save building supply and hardware businesses. And they were successful, preventing major property damage from the most threatening bushfire this season. David McElwain, NBN News. From America and South Africa they came, port workers and miners who wanted to see how the Australian union movement and coal industry operated. John Maitland from the CFMEU says he asked Port Waratah Coal Services if the delegation could see the busiest coal port in the world in operation from its major loader.
Some of them are port workers who actually were very interested in having a look at what is regarded as one of the best ports around the world, but we were denied access to it, and I don't know why.
But the General Manager says he believes the delegation were just looking to hold a rally on the site, which is part owned by Rio Tinto.
It was organised as a coordinated attack on Rio Tinto. It's political, and I'm not having political meetings on my site.
In other industrial news, tugboats may not be tying on to anything but the docks next week. The Maritime Union says there is the possibility of a national strike as Adsteam Marine, which is the monopoly operator in Newcastle, tries to reduce the number of deckhands on each boat from 2 to 1 to promote efficiency.
No other tug operator is pursuing this issue at the moment, only Adsteam.
On Tuesday, Dr Stan Chen spoke of a simmering crisis in Hunter Health, about to be made worse by a 45% cut to surgery for the rest of the financial year. Only emergency, semi-urgent and major cancer operations would be performed. 5 surgeons followed the Director of Surgery's lead. They all tendered their resignations in protest.
We've decided to lay our careers on the lines.
He said the situation was getting progressively worse and blamed the funding shortfall on a blowout in workers' compensation premiums and the increasing complexity of surgical cases being drawn to the Hunter. Surgeons had threatened to resign just 6 months ago, but didn't.
Now it is clearly evident that resourcing is not going to improve unless something drastic is done.
The 6 resignations drew national exposure to the perceived funding shortfall for Hunter Health. Just 3 days after making his stand, the head of surgery signed a document withdrawing all the doctors' resignations and committing them to a lower level of surgery. Today, neither he nor the head of Hunter Health was prepared to say why. David McElwain, NBN News.
Words such as terminal and victim have been taken out of the camp quality vocabulary, encouraging only positive thoughts and words from the children. This week, organiser Tom Strickland is making final preparations for the camp. There will be no standing still for the 70 children who will make the shores of Lake Keepit their home during the Easter holidays.
Everything will be for the joy of living and fun. And they'll ride in a hot air balloon and they'll make meaningful craft things that they take home as symbols. Of course, Keepit has all the youth activities that you could possibly ask for.
Camp Quality aims to bring together at various locations all 10,000 children across Australia that are currently undergoing some form of cancer treatment. Mr Strickland says the camp not only offers parents a respite, but it also acts as a form of therapy for the children.
We certainly work on the element of encouraging the kids to think so positively. The doctors tell us that this is the best medicine we can give to work in with their programs. Children get to meet other children who suffer from the same sorts of difficulties that they have. They can identify together, and because of that, their souls are lifted by the experience of Camp Quality.
The camp kicks off on the 22nd of April. Colleen Livingstone, NBN News.
A 4-1 demolition of the Northern Spirit and a firm hold in the top 6, but the Breakers are only just convincing the NSL they're contenders this season.
Do we finally now have to concede that Newcastle Breakers are for real?
The ladder certainly indicates that. The 2-2 draw between ladder leaders Olympic and Wollongong helped Newcastle into a share of second. For a team that some experts had tipped to finish in the cellar, Newcastle sits well above some of the favourites for the competition midway through the second round.
If you said that we'd be in the position we're in at the moment, at the start of the season with the draw we had, I would have said we couldn't beat it.
Not one to get swept up by the success, Derry knows there's a long way to go.
I reckon 20 points from last week was going to get us in there, so this is 3 less. We've got a task to get another 17 now, so we'll just count the 17 down until we get 53, because I think it'll take 53 to be in the 6.
But the team has already made an impression on more fancied and bigger budget teams.
I'll say this truthfully now, I mean they've probably got 11 players here that aren't exactly superstars, but at the end of the day they put it in, they work hard as a team and you get a result as a team, and that, you can't beat that.
And they'll be beating each other for positions this weekend, with 2 substitutes banging home goals and others returning from suspension. A host of players will now be available to play Auckland, a game which will now actually be played in Wellington.
Some of the guys like Smitty have been coming on and doing a great job the last few weeks. They've really made an impact.
That's great. Now, while doing that, look at me and smile.
Open-ended questions, I love them.
Stick it on there. Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
Well, it's 7 o'clock, folks, and we'll, Everybody got to bless that piece of turf. Through the medium of the Republic Club.
While the skies may have looked threatening over Rutherford today, the mood on the ground was buoyant as trade unions updated the sacked workers on the struggle to secure their money. The union will this week iron out the details of this deed of company arrangement with National Textiles administrators. They're hopeful of a good outcome for the workers.
The indications are from this deed is that you will receive 100 cents in the dollar.
But while the sale of the plant's assets will secure the workers' entitlements, it'll do little to recoup the millions of dollars owed to unsecured creditors like welder Bill Drain, who says he'll blockade the front gates if equipment is removed from the plant.
Trucks and backhoes and probably other heavy moving gear, earth moving gear that we probably could put into place.
Community support for the workers continues, with the Maitland Leagues Club donating $3,000 today, and news that the state government will fund the retraining of the factory's office staff in the latest computer technology.
It's hard enough to get jobs out there anyway, so the more training we can get to bring us up to what the requirements, the better, and it was absolutely fantastic.
The final package will be put to workers at a creditors meeting at the Newcastle Workers Club next Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Over the past 3 years, international visitor numbers to the Mid-North Coast have increased, but according to Tourism Mid-North Coast, the figures aren't what they could be. Today's workshop was aimed at devising strategies to bring more domestic and international visitors.
We're sitting down, having a look at the trends, what's been happening over the last 5 years, particularly 3 years, and looking into the future, what's happening in tourism, how can we capitalise on that, get everyone's ideas and really put the best foot forward.
Tourism industry stakeholders and operators have been asked to give their opinion on current marketing strategies and suggestions on future ones, and all agree there's no shortage of attractions.
Rivers, the mountains, the beaches, hideaways, it's just national parks, beautiful.
Business operators are also preparing for the pre-Olympic stage and hoping to cash in on the after effects of the September Games.
We have $25,000 from Tourism New South Wales to really attract visitors here, get people out of Sydney, and to really do a great job to get the numbers here, and I think we'll be successful.
Catherine Turner, NBN News.
The innovative program is a joint venture between local council and the Newcastle Master Builders Association and was officially launched today. It's aimed at making it easier for homeowners and builders to be energy friendly. From the 1st of May, new developments will have to have a 3.5-star energy rating to be approved.
This is a milestone for Newcastle and the industry in that an industry association, the Master Builders Association, have joined with council to jointly promote this policy.
There are a number of ways houses can be designed and built in an environmentally friendly manner, maximising natural resources such as gas or solar power.
Some of them cost very little, like orientating the house correctly on the block. That goes all the way through to the insulation requirements, through to glazing requirements, through to energy efficiency appliances, water-wise type situations.
According to Mr Fuller, homeowners will also reap the financial rewards of having an energy-efficient house.
Overall, there's going to be somewhere between $800 and $1,000 worth of energy-saving bills in these homes once they're set up and rolling. So there's a monetary advantage for mums and dads to start thinking about energy efficiency and adopting it in a positive manner.
The program's designed to let people know their limitations in some ways and to allow for that, particularly with the surf, obviously, where the major number of deaths have taken place for over 55s.
Newcastle councillors joined in the stirring 3-hour debate last night, a packed public gallery of former councillor and the developers of the Catholic Education Office all present in the council chambers and all armed with a point of view. It was an even 6-vote split for and against the $13.5 million development on Newcastle Hill. Lord Mayor John Tate used his casting vote to approve the plan.
It's not what the residents want, but it's what Newcastle needs, and furthermore it's what we had to do.
But the decision has raised the ire of nearby residents despite amendments to the plan which include the lowering of 2 apartment blocks and a view corridor from Perkins Street to the nearby Christchurch Cathedral. Greens councillors say the council also failed to take heritage concerns into account.
I believe that when people see these towers, inappropriate towers, being erected on a ridgeline, at the peak of a city which is crowned by the cathedral, they will be shocked and ashamed.
A rescission motion wasn't lodged today by councillors, but it's believed those opposed to the new development and its 52 residential units are now considering a Land and Environment Court appeal. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
It's a time for maps and asking directions. New students on campus for the first time, taking tours and looking for tips. That's what Orientation Week is all about.
We just had like a bit of a talk then, and they was telling us about the lectures and when to sign up for tutorials. Yeah, and introducing us to the faculty. Yeah, it's been good.
Armed with new supplies of books and stationery, hordes of students with the HSC behind them looked at what sort of social life university can offer through its clubs and sports. And while the kicks were flying on campus, the University Vice-Chancellor presented the Hunter Academy of Sport with $10,000 by way of sponsorship. Also taking advantage of facilities at the university, the Jose University swimming team. In Australia on a goodwill visit, they didn't have time for Orientation Week festivities. It was straight into training with their coach hopeful of scoring at least 2 berths in the Japanese Olympic team. It seems the summer heat is making life easy for criminals. In the last fortnight alone, there have been 53 break-and-enters in just 4 Newcastle suburbs.
Summer's here, it's come all of a sudden, and people are getting a bit lax with their security on their premises, leaving windows and doors open.
Adamstown tops the list with 17 break-ins. In fact, the suburb is responsible for 23% of all break-and-enters reported to Newcastle Police during the fortnight. Merewether, Katara and Hamilton are also at high risk of being targeted. Police believe improved security in Cooks Hill, Bar Beach, Tyes Hill and Carrington has forced thieves to look elsewhere, with only 6 break-ins reported during the same period. It's a lesson police would like people living in high-risk suburbs to learn.
We've got our figures to prove it here, so we're warning people to secure their premises before they go out.
One of the state's biggest dairy distributors turned up at the picket line this morning showing the milk of human kindness. But the offer of real sustenance came from the Premier.
Our $2 million is there on the table for the workers at National Textiles now. It's not conditional on any deed of arrangement.
An offer met with suspicion on the picket line.
I only believe so much, so when we do actually get the money in our hands, yeah, I'll believe it then.
The money's supposed to be laid on the table with no strings attached. That'll be excellent.
Quick to make the most of the news was Labor's Shadow Industrial Relations Minister, on hand at the picket line to throw down the gauntlet.
The challenge is now with Peter Reith and with John Howard. If they're fair dinkum and they want to put the money up, as they said they do, put it up on the table now.
Both the federal and state governments had agreed to chip in $2 million each towards an entitlement fund owed to the workers. The state government's counter-move sparking a swift rebuke from the PM.
This cheap gimmick by the New South Wales Premier and the Leader of the Opposition will be seen by the workers for what it is. If you want the $11 million, you've got to have the combination of the deed of arrangement and the contributions of the two governments.
But the state government is only willing to contribute to a national scheme on its terms.
I can't ask taxpayers to pick up the bills left behind by businessmen who've got $1 million yachts and harbourside properties.
A National Textiles Creditors meeting is scheduled for Tuesday. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Well, I can tell you that the Newcastle Knights are in for a physical game against the West Tigers this Sunday. The Auckland Warriors have 5 players with broken noses from their last game with the West Tigers. Auckland coach Mark Graham said they've had enough of being on their wrong end of headshots and they're going to take things in their own hands. Now, Cronulla seem to be taking the same stance, implying that the easy head-eye shot on Martin Lang is now over, as Brendan Hurst found out, with Lang's teammates making it clear that they're willing to bung it on if need be. Now I'm going to move now to something that really does annoy me, and the fact that the Johns brothers, have had to put up with the speculation that they may be leaving the Newcastle Knights and going to England at the end of the season. Here we are, just 2 weeks into the competition, and we've got to put up these ridiculous rumours already. The Johnsies and their managers don't know where it came from, nor does Wakefield Trinity, the English rugby league club. And I know from experience that at contract time, all the hype, it certainly doesn't help. The Johns boys will sit down when they're ready and decide their future, so I think it'd be good to brush the silly season until the end of the year where it belongs. Okay, well now here's my tips for round 3, and there's a couple of hard ones to pick. The Warriors and the Broncos at Ericsson Stadium is a tough one. The Broncos are in pretty good form, but the Warriors will be looking for another aggressive win at home. There's bound to be some fireworks, but I think the Broncos can just take it out by a fraction. The other tough one is the Raiders v the Storm. It remains to be seen if the Storm can bounce back after last week's loss, but the Raiders have been dominating on the ruck and have really been brilliant in that area. The fact is that they're playing at Bruce Stadium and it should give them the edge. Well, here's my tips for the rest of the round 3. The Eagles and the Panthers, that'll be a tough one there at Brookvale. I'm tipping the Eagles for the simple reason that the Penrith Panthers have had 2 good victories, but they've been over teams in poor form like the Cowboys and the Bulldogs. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you next week. I'm Paul Harrigan for NBN News.
It's the first step, it's the most important step, and let's hope it can all follow on from here.